The sky outside was dull gray as Wendy sat across from Elaine's pristine desk, watching her boss skim through the promotion application with practiced indifference. 5 years of sacrificed weekends, missed family dinners, and relentless overtime had been distilled into a 20-page portfolio that Elaine barely acknowledged before sliding it aside as if it were an inconvenience rather than a record of devotion. "I appreciate your enthusiasm," Elaine said, adjusting her designer glasses with a gesture that felt rehearsed. "But I've reviewed your application thoroughly, and while your work has been competent, I don't believe you're ready for senior management, perhaps in another year or two." The words dropped between us like a weight. I maintained the department's highest client satisfaction ratings. I personally salvaged the Lafford account when everyone else had already written it off. I hadn't taken a full weekend off in 3 years. Still, I smiled and nodded, wearing the expression I'd perfected over years of corporate survival. "I understand. Thank you for the feedback." "I'm glad we're aligned," Elaine replied, already glancing at her watch. "The Ellison proposal needs your attention today. They're asking for additional metrics before signing." As I gathered my belongings, Elaine had already turned back to her keyboard, fingers flying across an email. My disappointment was dismissed as quickly as it had been delivered. I walked past the corner office that should have been mine, the one with the broad window and the glass door where my name should have been etched. In the parking garage, I sat behind the wheel and studied my reflection in the rear view mirror. The woman staring back wasn't sad, and she wasn't angry. She looked deliberate, thoughtful, calculating. I turned the key in the ignition and made 2 decisions that would quietly reshape everything. I would cancel my upcoming vacation, and I would stop writing my daily operational guides. No one at the office realized it yet, but their perfectly polished system was about to crumble without its unseen support beam. Before I explain what followed, you might be wondering why so many people feel trapped in careers where they're undervalued. If my story resonates with you, make sure to like and subscribe. I share a new career strategy every week that could fundamentally change your professional life. Now, back to what happened after that meeting. My name is Amelia Carlton, and until that conversation, I was the most dependable employee at Meridian Solutions. Not the most visible or the highest paid, but the one who kept everything functioning while others collected praise. I've always had an almost photographic memory for systems and processes. Growing up as the oldest among 4 younger siblings taught me to anticipate problems before they erupted, a habit that translated seamlessly into corporate life. When I joined the company 5 years earlier, I walked straight into chaos. The previous team leader had resigned abruptly after clashing with management, leaving behind no documentation, no transition notes, not even login credentials for critical systems. Clients were threatening to walk, internal confusion reigned, and no one knew where to begin. I spent 3 months reverse engineering every workflow, staying late night after night, decoding spreadsheets, reconstructing client histories, and tracing decisions no one remembered making. I built detailed process guides for everything, color-coded, indexed, and obsessively organized. Elaine never bothered to truly learn any of it. She didn't need to. I handled everything so efficiently that my competence became invisible. "You're a natural problem solver," she'd say during performance reviews, always followed by a modest raise that never came close to matching my impact. The company's biggest win that year was a contract with Ellison Enterprises, a deal worth millions annually. I built that relationship from the ground up, adjusting my schedule to match their overseas hours, immersing myself in their industry until I could anticipate their needs before they voiced them. Elaine attended exactly 3 meetings, mostly to take credit during executive briefings. Every morning I arrived at 7:30 to prepare briefing notes for Elaine before her 9 o'clock management meetings. Every evening I sent thorough updates on active projects. In between, I quietly put out fires before anyone smelled smoke. The morning after my promotion was denied, something shifted. I arrived at exactly 9 o'clock, not earlier. I didn't prepare briefing notes. I responded only to emails addressed directly to me and ignored the rest. When a supplier crisis flared, I forwarded it to the appropriate department instead of resolving it myself. By lunchtime, 3 people had already stopped by my desk, confused. "Amelia, did you see the warning about the Lafford scheduling conflict?" Peter from accounts asked. "Yes," I replied, continuing to type. He lingered. "So, can you fix it like you usually do?" "That falls under procurement," I said, forwarding the message to Diane. His eyebrows rose. "But you always handle these things." "I've been advised to focus on my assigned responsibilities. I want to demonstrate that I understand my role." At exactly 5 p.m., I shut down my computer and left. No overtime, no taking work home. On the drive, I canceled the cabin reservation for my vacation, the first real break I'd planned in 3 years. Instead, I intended to be present for the system's collapse. That evening, my phone buzzed relentlessly. I silenced it and spent time with my daughter, Elena, baking chocolate chip cookies, something we hadn't done in months. As we laughed over misshapen dough, a weight lifted from my shoulders. "Mom, why are you home early?" Elena asked, licking batter from the spoon. "I decided my time is valuable," I said gently, "and I want to spend more of it with you." She smiled brightly. "Can we do this tomorrow, too?" "Absolutely," I promised, ignoring the phone vibrating on the counter. By morning, cracks were already spreading. Ellison requested urgent changes to their implementation plan, changes only I fully understood. Elaine attempted to lead the response, but without my briefings, she quickly unraveled. "Where are the process notes for the Ellison customizations?" she demanded at my desk. "They're on the shared drive, under Client Implementations. I mentioned it in last month's meeting." "There are hundreds of files. Which one?" I opened the folder. The master document is titled Ellison Enterprise Integration Complete Process Documentation, organized by module. She stared at the 200-page file, horror flickering across her face. "Can you just handle this?" "I have the quarterly compliance review this afternoon," I replied. "I can start on Ellison tomorrow morning." "This can't wait," she snapped. "I understand. Would you like me to reschedule the compliance review? It's due to regulators today." She left without answering. That evening, I took Elena to the park. When I checked my work phone later, there were 79 missed calls. By morning, the office was in chaos. Elaine's assistant summoned me to an emergency meeting with the regional director, Byron Wallace. "What will it take for you to fix this?" Elaine demanded. "I've been contacted by a competitor," I said evenly. "They've offered me a senior management role. Apparently, they believe I'm qualified." Silence filled the room. "Name your price," Byron said quickly. "It's not just about money," I replied. "It's about respect and opportunity." I placed a folder on the table. "Here's my 2 weeks' notice. I'll assist with the transition as my contract requires." Elaine reached for the folder, but Byron was faster. He opened it, scanned the contents, then closed it decisively. "This won't be necessary," he said firmly. "Amelia, I'd like to speak with you privately in my office." As I stood to follow him, Elaine remained seated, her knuckles white against the polished table. The company's response to my resignation was about to reveal exactly how much they had undervalued me all along, and what they were willing to do to keep me now that they understood my true worth. I followed Byron to his corner office, aware of the curious glances from colleagues as we passed. His space was minimalist but impressive, awards and industry recognitions lining one wall, while floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city. He gestured for me to sit in the chair across from his desk. "I've been watching your contributions for some time," Byron said, folding his hands on his desk, though apparently not closely enough. I remained silent, letting him continue. "This situation with Elaine concerns me," he admitted. "This is the first I'm hearing about your promotion being denied. Why didn't you come to me directly?" "Chain of command," I replied simply. "Elaine is my supervisor. Going over her head would have been inappropriate." He nodded slowly. "Admirable, but perhaps misguided in this case. Tell me honestly, what would it take to keep you here?" I considered my words carefully. Recognition of my actual contributions, appropriate compensation, and a position where I can implement the strategies I've developed instead of just executing someone else's vision. Byron studied me for a long moment. "I'm creating a new position, Director of Operational Systems, reporting directly to me. Double your current salary, full remote flexibility 3 days a week, and authority over departmental workflow design. The position is yours if you want it." I didn't respond immediately, which seemed to surprise him. "Is that not sufficient?" he asked. "It's very generous," I acknowledged, "but I need to be clear about something. I'm not using a competing offer as leverage. There really is another company waiting for my decision." Byron leaned back. "What can they offer that we can't match or exceed?" "A fresh start," I said honestly. "No history of being overlooked, no colleagues who see me as support staff rather than leadership." "Fair point," he conceded. "But consider this. You've built systems here that you understand intimately. You've cultivated client relationships that trust you. Starting over means rebuilding all of that from scratch." He was right, of course. 5 years of institutional knowledge wasn't easily replaced, but neither was the feeling of being consistently undervalued. "I'll need some time to consider," I said, finally. "Of course, take the weekend, but I need an answer by Monday morning." He stood, signaling the end of our meeting. "And Amelia, I'd appreciate if you could help stabilize the Ellison situation before you make any final decisions." I nodded. "I'll handle Ellison personally today." When I returned to my desk, an email from Byron was already waiting, outlining the new position offer in writing. The salary figure made me blink twice. It was more than double what I currently earned. The job description could have been written specifically for my skill set. I was gathering materials for the Ellison call when Elaine appeared beside my desk, her expression carefully neutral. "We need to talk," she said quietly. "Not here. Lunch." "I have the Ellison call at noon," I replied. "After that. Then. My office at 2. I nodded, already turning my attention to the crisis at hand. The Ellison team was frustrated but relieved when I joined the call. Their demands were reasonable. They needed customizations that would normally take weeks, implemented within days. I walked them through a phased approach that prioritized their most critical needs while building toward their complete vision. "This is exactly why we wanted to work with your company," their director said. "You understand our business needs, not just technical specifications." After the call, I documented the solution in clear steps and sent it to the implementation team with explicit instructions. Normally, I would have handled every aspect myself, but today I delegated appropriately, making myself available for questions, but not taking ownership of execution. At 2 o'clock, I knocked on Elaine's door. She looked different, smaller somehow, with dark circles under her eyes, suggesting a sleepless night. "Close the door," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. "I understand Byron offered you a position." "He did," I confirmed. She nodded slowly. "I won't pretend to be happy about it, but I understand why he did it. You're valuable to the company." I waited, sensing there was more. "I owe you an apology," she continued, the words seeming difficult for her. "I've relied on your competence without appropriately acknowledging it or rewarding it. May I ask you something?" "Of course," I said, genuinely curious. "When you said I wasn't qualified for senior management, what specifically did you think I was lacking?" Elaine shifted uncomfortably. "You've always been more technical, the behind-the-scenes problem solver. Senior management requires visibility, presence, political savvy. In other words, I do the work while others take the spotlight." She had the grace to look embarrassed. "That's oversimplifying." "Is it?" I asked. "The Ellison contract. Who presented the winning strategy to the executive team?" I did, based on the proposal I developed. I led the client retention initiative last quarter that saved 4 major accounts and received the leadership award. That was a team effort. A team I led, coordinated, and created all materials for. I leaned forward slightly. I'm not lacking qualifications, Elaine. I've simply allowed others to stand on my shoulders while remaining invisible. The silence between us stretched uncomfortably. Are you taking Byron's offer? She finally asked. I haven't decided. If you stay, she said carefully, things will be different between us. Yes, I agreed. They will. The weekend gave me time to think clearly away from office politics. I took Elena to the Science Museum on Saturday, something I'd been promising for months but never found time for. On Sunday, I called my sister for advice. What does your gut tell you? She asked after I explained the situation. That I've outgrown the box they put me in, I replied, but I'm not sure if Byron's offer changes that or just makes the box more comfortable. Would you be reporting to Elaine in this new role? No, directly to Byron. And what happens to Elaine? It was a good question. Byron didn't say specifically, but reading between the lines, I think her position is being reconsidered. My sister was quiet for a moment. So your options are to take a fresh start elsewhere or accept a promotion that might result in your former boss being demoted. Put that way, the choice felt different. I don't want revenge against Elaine, I said slowly. I just want recognition for my work. Are you sure about that? My sister challenged. Because from what you've told me, part of you would enjoy seeing her face the consequences of underestimating you. Her words hit uncomfortably close to home. Was that what I wanted to see? Elaine humbled, to watch her realize how much she'd depended on me while simultaneously dismissing my contributions. By Monday morning, I had made my decision. I arrived early, 7:30 a.m., my old starting time, and went directly to Byron's office. His assistant wasn't at her desk yet, but his door was open. You're early, he noted, looking up from his computer. I wanted to give you my answer before the day gets busy, I explained, taking the seat across from him, and I'm accepting your offer with 2 conditions. His eyebrows rose slightly. I'm listening. First, I want to build my own team with full hiring authority for 3 positions I believe are essential, I said. Byron nodded. Reasonable. And the second? Elaine remains in her current position. This clearly surprised him. After how she treated you? Why? Because replacing her doesn't solve the structural problems in how the department functions, and I don't want my first leadership act to be perceived as revenge. He studied me with new interest. That's unexpected and politically astute. I've learned a few things watching from the sidelines, I replied. Very well. Elaine stays, though her department will now coordinate through your office for operational matters. Thank you. No, Amelia, Byron said, extending his hand. Thank you for staying. The announcement will go out this morning. I suggest you prepare for quite a bit of reaction. He wasn't wrong. The company-wide email went out at 10 a.m. announcing my new position and outlining my expanded responsibilities. My inbox immediately flooded with congratulations, questions, and meeting requests. Peter stopped by my desk, looking somewhat sheepish. So you'll be my boss now? Technically, yes, I confirmed. Is that going to be a problem? He shook his head quickly. No, it's great. You've always been the one who actually knows what's happening anyway. Throughout the day, colleagues who had barely acknowledged me previously suddenly found reasons to introduce themselves. Administrative assistants who had always been kind to me now smiled with a hint of conspiracy. They understood better than anyone how invisible work kept the company running. Elaine avoided me until late afternoon when she appeared at my desk with a folder. The quarterly strategy document, she said stiffly. Since operational planning now falls under your purview, you'll need to present this at the executive meeting tomorrow. I accepted the folder. Thank you. I'll review it tonight. She turned to leave, then hesitated. For what it's worth, I didn't recommend against your promotion because I thought you were incapable. I did it because I couldn't afford to lose you from my team. It was perhaps the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. That's the fundamental problem, isn't it? I replied. Good managers develop their people, even when it means letting them move on. She nodded once sharply and walked away. That evening, I stayed late, reorganizing my workspace for my new role. Byron stopped by on his way out. Still here? I thought you'd be celebrating. I smiled. I'll celebrate this weekend. Right now, I'm planning. Planning what? How to make sure no one else in this company is overlooked the way I was. I handed him a document I'd been working on. This is my proposed structure for the new department, including training programs to identify internal talent and systematically develop it. He flipped through the pages, eyebrows rising. You developed all this today? No, I admitted. I've been refining it for about 2 years. I just never had the authority to implement it. Byron shook his head, looking impressed. Remind me never to underestimate you, Amelia. That's the plan, I replied with a smile. 3 months later, the transformation was well underway. My new team included a brilliant systems analyst who had been buried in IT support and a process developer who had been miscast as an administrative assistant. Together, we streamlined operations across 4 departments, reducing overtime by 40% while increasing productivity metrics. Elaine and I developed a professional working relationship. It wasn't friendly exactly, but it was respectful. She excelled at client-facing interactions, once freed from operational details she had never fully grasped. In an unexpected development, the division's employee satisfaction scores improved dramatically. The Ellison contract expanded to include 2 additional service lines, specifically requesting my new team's involvement in the implementation. Their CEO personally called Byron to commend the company's remarkable turnaround in operational excellence. On a Friday afternoon, 6 months after my non-promotion, I left the office at 5 p.m., a habit I had maintained despite my increased responsibilities. Elena was waiting when I got home, homework spread across the kitchen table. How was work, Mom? She asked, looking up from her math problems. Productive? I replied, setting down my laptop bag. The new training program launched today. 25 employees will get development opportunities they wouldn't have had before. Like you didn't get, she said. Children see more than we realize. Yes, exactly like that. She considered it for a moment. That's a nice way to fix things. Instead of getting mad, you're making it better for other people. I smiled, recognizing the wisdom in her observation. Sometimes the best response to being undervalued isn't anger. It's demonstrating your true worth so clearly that it can never be questioned again. That evening, as Alina slept and I reviewed presentations for Monday's executive meeting, my phone buzzed with a text from Byron. Board approved your promotion to VP level effective next month. Unanimous vote. Elaine actually gave the strongest recommendation. Congratulations. I set the phone down, a sense of satisfaction washing over me. This wasn't about winning or revenge. It was about finally being seen, truly seen for what I had always been capable of doing. The corner office with my name on the door was nice, but it wasn't the victory. The victory was changing a system that had failed not just me, but countless others whose quiet competence went unrecognized. The victory was creating paths for others to rise without having to become invisible first. If you've ever felt invisible in your workplace despite carrying more than your share, I hope this story gives you courage. The skills that make you indispensable are the same ones that qualify you for leadership. Don't wait for others to recognize your value. Demonstrate it so clearly that denying it becomes impossible. And if you found something valuable in this story, please like and subscribe for more strategies on transforming workplace dynamics. Remember, your worth isn't determined by others' inability to see it. It's defined by your impact, whether acknowledged or not.